The moment that SoFi got that customer, you should have been like, Nodo's dream is coming to fruition. This video is going to be on SoFi Technologies, ticker symbol SOFI. And after that earnings, it seems like retail has gone from super bearish to now slowly becoming more and more bullish. And a lot of it's based on the stuff that I talked about on a previous video, how they beat Wall Street expectations for their forecast for revenue, but they missed it based on their EPS. And that just, in my previous video, I explained that basically just screams, we are going to use the money to grow as much as possible. That's literally it, right? I mean, if you are projecting increased revenue, where do you think that bottom line is? Why do you think they're not raising their EPS as much, right? It's because they think that they're going to spend as much money on trying to grow at a stable rate. And I want to touch upon a few other things that I feel that a lot of people actually missed regarding all the information that Nodo talked about, that Crystal Point talked about, that was in the SoFi's earnings and the documents like the SEC filing. So the first thing I wanted to touch upon is people are saying that the 700,000 member growth per quarter shows that SoFi Technologies might be stagnating. They might be like drifting off. Maybe they're approaching their asymptote. But I really want to mention that maybe, in my opinion, I think that they're going to spend more of their money rather than putting it on marketing, right? Because in my opinion, I think that they're already expected to be more or less a household name, right? They already have that brand recognition, and adding more to it, there's going to be a law of diminishing returns for just throwing money at marketing. So they're just going to be trying, in my opinion, I think that they're going to use that money instead of throwing it all into marketing and just burning it away. Maybe they'll be adding more products. Maybe they'll be improving products, right? A lot of people have been asking for level 1 options or SMB banking, right? And in my opinion, just an offshoot, a tangent on SMB banking, I think that might actually come soon. Why? Because they're actually implementing the SoFi Plus membership, where it's like, I forgot how much money it is per month, but it's like the membership, there's a membership fee for people that do not have direct deposit with SoFi to earn those benefits. And I think that's basically like the entry point for attracting those SMB businesses, or I guess those SMB customers, to using SoFi. And once you have that kind of base set up where they have all those benefits as the direct deposit users, direct deposit customers, then it'll make more sense for them to have all these other features that the SMB users would want to use. Maybe I'm missing something, but in my opinion, if they're predicting a leveling off in marketing, right, basically a leveling off in membership growth, right, well, they're not leveling off, but like 700k consistently rather than it growing, right, they're predicting that. They're predicting leveled off, like lower EPS, right? Where do you think that extra money is going? It's gonna go to growth and going to other other ways to increase the number of products that they offer in order to improve their products. That's my opinion. The other thing, I think that some people might say, well, I mean, if they're planning to grow as much as possible, shouldn't they be increasing their EPS? Because if you have more growth, then it's possible, then you should be, if you have more products that you're offering, if you're growing more, then you should be earning more income. Well, first of all, I think that they're spending all their money in growing, right? So that any extra money, any extra profits, they're gonna throw that back into the business, which is why I think that, I don't know why SoFi, why so many people think that it's just valued as a bank. You maybe, can we at least call it a growth bank? Can we at least call it a growth bank? Like, I don't know, what else does management have to say stop valuing us as a stupid bank? But the other note is I want you to think about, so Nodo joined Goldman Sachs in I think 1999, 1998, around that time, or maybe 1990s. Give me a second. Yeah, so Nodo joined Goldman Sachs in 1999. I just want to list off the number of black swans that Nodo has experienced in his professional career, right? So if he joined Goldman Sachs in 1999, there's the dot-com bubble, there's the great financial crisis in 08, 07, 08. He held a position at the NFL right until October 2010, right before the 2011 lockup, when like a whole bunch of crap just went through. He was at Sofi, which predominantly their entire business was on student loans. 2 years, a little bit less than 2 years before the pandemic hit, when they basically just shut off Sofi's entire business model, and then he somehow still climbs out of the ashes. This man is so experienced in just getting the short end of the stick of just experiencing black swan after black swan after black swan. And now, if you have an administration that is completely unchecked, right? The Republican Party, right? Trump has the Senate, he has the Congress, he has the Senate, he has the House, he has the judicial branch, he has the Supreme Court. When you have basically an unchecked president, he's almost veto proof, and he's going to be passing legislation after legislation after executive order after legislation, law after law. You're bound to have some things that are bad for the economy, right? Some things you're bound to have some mess ups, even if it's a low likelihood. There's bound to be some type of mess up, right? When you have an administration that's going so quickly, you can't help but screw up somewhere. And I believe that Sofi and Noto, in kind of having this lower EPS, they're giving themselves this buffer to say, although we're trying to seek growth at all costs, it's not actually all costs. They have this buffer, and basically they're only going to throw in what excess money they have, what excess revenue that they have to growth. Then they're kind of making sure that if a black swan does occur, if poop does hit the fan, then they won't be affected as much as other people. I've mentioned this multiple times. I've touched upon this interview multiple times. When Noto was asked about Robinhood, he basically congratulates them, but he says that I think that Robinhood, they're going too fast, right? It's not safe at the rate at which they're growing. It's just not as safe. He mentions that multiple times. That's why I think that Noto and by tension or by relation, Sofi is very risk averse. I mentioned this in the previous video. They said that we wouldn't mind doing this, only doing the loan platform business and offloading all our loans to loan platform business, because that would basically remove a lot of financial burden from us, a financial risk from us to other people, right? All we would do is the servicing. And that, I feel like being as low risk as possible is this mindset that management has, especially when you pair it with the experience and with all the things that Noto has experienced. As I said before, black swan after black swan after black swan, all these things you can't predict. I mean, maybe you could say some people predicted it, but like a lot of people didn't predict it. So I guess all that's to say is just all these people that are kind of criticizing Sofi for, oh, you missed your EPS, oh, you're not growing your customer base as much. Think about the customer base growth, right? What does Sofi, what do they pride themselves in, right? They pride themselves in having a quality customer, right? 740 average credit score. They pride themselves in that. And to be honest, if you think about it, why is their loan platform business so successful? It's because these other businesses that are looking to underwrite loans, they want trustworthy and capable people, right? And they know that Sofi's customer base is that cohort of people that are trustworthy and capable of paying back their loans. But if Sofi were to just growth at all costs and just say, okay, well, we're gonna attract 15 million new customers, you're bound to have to make that trade-off of, okay, well, we need more customers, but there aren't any more that are in our in our preference range, so we're just gonna have to lower our standards. You don't want that from Sofi, right? You want Sofi to occupy that niche of having the best, highest quality customers for that loan platform business. And I think it makes sense that Sofi is predicting, or maybe even limiting themselves to only 700,000 customers per quarter on average. They said 2.8 million for the next year, because they don't want to lose that standard. They don't want to lower their average for the sake of just having more members. I feel like I was going to say a bunch of other things before I went on this tangent rant on member growth, but in my opinion, like, I guess it all boils down to Sofi is just trying to grow as much as possible while being as safe as possible. I keep saying as safe as possible, right? You don't want level 1 options yet, because you're still dealing with the Henrys of the world who are too busy working than just YOLOing and degenning on 0 DTEs, right? You want the cohort of people that are not that are more focused on kind of like getting this stable source of income than you care about the people that are just gonna buy and sell options. The last thing I wanted to touch upon is just something random, but you remember when everyone was scared crapless? I think it was last Monday when Trump was saying tariffs for like 25% Mexico, 25% Canada before they got delayed by a month, and SoFi dropped to like 14.50. I think that is so absurd, and that was like a great buying opportunity, because if you think about it, what is the one thing that everyone was just clamoring on SoFi to hurry up and implement? It was SMB banking, right? It was, we want SMB banking, right? But think about if tariffs do become enacted, who is harmed the most? Is it the big corporations? No, they have economies of scale. It's going to harm the SMB users the most. It's going to harm the small and medium businesses the most, right? So I think that when tariffs got enacted, it should have dropped for everyone other than SoFi, because all those other banks, right, that have those small, medium business customers, they're basically at risk of losing, they're at risk of losing their entire business, their entire livelihood, because they might get cut off, they might get undercut by those bigger corporations, by the Amazons, by the whatever other like big corporation, right? The small and medium-sized businesses, they actually need to focus their money on growing the business. They need to focus their money on all the overhead and things like that, because they don't yet have that economy of scale. So they're the most risky type of loans to hold if those tariffs do get enacted, which I do believe that China's gonna get that 10% tariff. So those will also harm those small and medium-sized businesses. And what type of customer does SoFi not have that most other banks have? Small and medium-sized businesses. So like I don't know, I feel like this earnings was really, really good. Don't even get me started with they just added that little sentence. Oh, we got a customer from hotel management, from like some hotel thing. I forgot this exact phrase, but like, oh, we got this customer using our product, was a top 10, I think they said, hotel something. You do realize that's not a bank, right? Like, people are like, when are you going to get that AWS? When are you going to become AWS of banking? That sentence alone should have been hyper bullish, because the moment when something that's not a fintech or not like banking adjacent uses their product, that's when you know that we are getting there, right? For example, for actual AWS, it doesn't matter necessarily that like all the big companies are using them, right? But when you get the small guy, like just some like mom and pop shop using AWS, you know that you're getting there, because that is basically that's one of the goals of AWS. It's in order to kind of democratize this all those web services so that anyone can use it, right? And the moment that SoFi got that customer, you should have been like, Nodo's dream is coming to fruition. I sound like a SoFi permabull, but I just don't understand why there's so much bearishness. And yes, I get it, right? The tech sector not doing as well, right? Oh, management keeps saying that they have faith in the tech sector. Galileo and Technisys are crap, right? We overpaid for it. We did overpay for it, right? But when you're talking about, oh, they're not making as much revenue as we thought, you have to compare it to other businesses in that sector. I think Tanner from Future Investing, he touches upon how if you look at the earnings call, and if you look at the earnings from other businesses in that same sector, they also have more or less the same revenue and the same like problem, right? It's just that we just left a fintech winter. So a lot of companies weren't investing in new infrastructure and things like that, right? So that just makes sense. I don't know. At this point, I'm just rambling, but like, I just don't understand why it was so bearish. And I feel like all the retail that just paper-handed out of SoFi in the past week, institutions have just been accumulating, right? That's my opinion. I sound like a permabull. I don't want to be a permabull, but like maybe I'm missing something. Like, I just don't see why it was so bearish. You could say that, okay, well, yeah, it was disappointing, right? The earnings per share, but they justified it, right? They justified it, and you're still like, no, I don't believe you. They said everything in the earnings call. It was a great earnings call. All right, bye. Go SoFi.